Okay, class, so let's go to the final group, which is group 5. So we have Emily, Brandon, Angela, Andreas, and Paige. Okay, so let's start off with Emily's work. So Emily is doing an iced lavender latte, right? So Emily, let's just take a look and see what we can do to improve this. So I'm guessing this is going to be your connotative and your denotative right here. I'm not mistaken. Overall, I think the text is very close to the edges, like so. And I'm wondering if there's a way we can create a little bit more white space, if you will. Because right now, it's a little too close to the edge, which makes things a little bit more uncomfortable to read. So one thing that I would just say in terms of spacing is take a look at some of those examples right here where the space just breathes a little bit better, right? And take a look and see if you want to edit things down even. But, you know, just let's bring in some white space into our layout. Some examples over here for white space as well. So let's bring some of that into our layout here. And overall, I think the text can go much smaller, all right? Because remember, you know, you have 10 point, 12 point, which is pretty much the type of size of text that we read, right? And overall, I would say try to find a way to bring in some alignment for your iced lavender latte, right? So if we're trying to box this in a way to create some kind of type illustration or some kind of mug in a way, like let's say if we bring in the word latte and that starts to bring in some structure to our layout, and this becomes our grid in a way. How do we start to align certain things in a more considerable way? And then how does that flow into the other elements of our layout right here, like what looks like the pull quote? You know, maybe the pull quote starts to come in this way, or it starts to align in this area right here. But I just want to make sure that we organize this a little bit better, because I read the text for the title, I read the instructions right here, maybe we add instructions here, but then ingredients, here it says espresso or strong, light, sweet flour. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to read it this way, like a right angle, or how it is, but it looks like the text is cutting off here. So maybe organize the text a little bit more clearly this way. But I like how you have certain elements like the light, sweet floral. Maybe that can be something here where you have that pull quote and it has that very distinct area next to or in between your instructions and your ingredients list. So see if there's something about that. And I would also try to concisely use text that isn't too different in a way where we can use the same kind of effect here where it's regular text and then we treat ingredients the same way. Or if you want to create a more bolder difference between the two, this can be bold, this could be light, you know, or this could be regular, this could be bold, but it's getting a little bit too difficult to read this part right here. So see if there's a way we can organize this a little bit better. And then, you know, areas like this, pour coffee over ice in a cup. Maybe, you know, and it's the only area here that aligns to the right. Maybe we align this more to the left. All right. And then let's go to your other version here. Lavender latte iced or iced lavender latte. Let's try to control the direction of this title treatment a little bit more clearly, so that way we can, you know, see what direction, which word we're going to read first, all right? I don't mind boxing in certain things, certain areas like this to create space for other bodies of copy, so I think this works nicely. Little areas like this here work well. I would just say, you know, overall, just make things a little bit smaller because things are getting a little bit too close to the edge, especially ingredients list over here. All right. And see if there's ways we can bring in some alignment, right? What's nice about this is you're starting to have some kind of movement with the italic. Maybe there's something about this that has a more more italic type of grid. So let's say your grid starts to have this slight diagonal happening. I'm wondering if that's something that you can do for the rest of your layout, because here you use italic, 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 and the only thing here that's not in italic is your body copy. So maybe bring in some of that movement in and see if that works as a set. And don't be afraid to experiment with color for these two versions. All right. Let's go to Brandon's work. So Brandon is doing bot show, right? So I think overall, Brandon, there's a lot of text on the edges right here, and you can definitely simplify the amount of text, all right? I'm not going to grade you for how much of this recipe you've put in or put out or edited out, so that's going to be on your that'll be your decision. But I think overall there's just a lot of movement here towards the edges, and it's just a little bit too much. I mean, if I simply just make things a little bit more small, like that already reads a little bit more clearly, and there's just some kind of a margin space here for breathing room. And overall, I think there's areas here that get too close to the type, so maybe be a little bit more intentional with how much space you leave. And this is almost touching, or it is touching, brisket over bow. And this right here, certain areas right here. So just be a little bit more intentional with space overall. But I think your alignment looks good. Aligning ingredients right here and then instructions here. But when I first saw the recipe, it looked like this. So let's just bring in some margin space for more breathing room overall. All right. For your connotative, I would just say make sure you're being very intentional with those movements of type. Make sure you have type that's not upside down. Make sure it's right side up and you're able to read it. So beef stew with, I think beef stew with noodles, spicy Vietnam. So let's just make sure we don't have the upside down type. I like where this type is going right here. It's easy to read, but then you get to areas where it starts to become a little bit challenging, like right here. But just be careful with how far you go with this effect, right? Yeah, I would say the same for this area right here. Just make sure your lines have some sense of logic as to how they move around your layout. I think this works well, but I see how this works nicely with this paragraph right here, but then this is just throwing me off, this ellipsis right here. I don't mind the letter forms kind of trickling in on the side of the layout like that, but this just kind of, I don't know, it just throws it off for me. But I do like how this weaves in and out, and the light text with the darker bold font here. But I'm wondering if there's a way we can bring this movement in here to kind of follow through, right? So you're starting to do that here with this text, but maybe, this angle here doesn't seem to be working with this angle here. So see if there's a way maybe to, make this meld well with this movement over here, okay? And again, same thing with your denotative. You need a little bit more space around the edge because it's very close to the space, not enough space at all. So once we do something like this, this breathes a little bit more, all right? So let's just add a little bit more white space around the edges, right? Angela, you had a version that was in color, but I favored to choose this version right here. And the reason why is because we need to remember that you want to make sure that whatever you do with type, which is why I chose this version here. Your colored version actually has shapes that are drawn in, and we don't want to do that for this assignment. So I think you're on to a better place with this version here. You just want to make sure things are not too close to the edge like it is here for your French toast recipe. So just be a little bit more intentional with how much space you fit in. And this already just breathes a little bit better, as you can see. All right. This is nice, you know, French toast recipe instructions. So just maybe bring in some spacing in between your words to read it a little bit better. And I think this works well as how you laid it out. Just make sure you're aligning things nicely. You know, let's maybe bring in a shallow dish, bring that up a bit more. And then prep time, you can maybe align prep time 20 minutes here. Looks like these two are duplicates here. Yeah, it looks like these two are duplicates. I'm wondering if you intended to use this one right here or to use this version right here. But I actually do like this version right here. I just would make it a little bit bigger, but not as big as this right here. And see if maybe if you want to add, you know, areas here like maybe the pull quote, or it's the title treatment somehow, but you know, just the duplicate here, just be a little bit more aware of that. All right. So let's go to your connotative, or I'm guessing this is your denotative, right? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna assume that this is your connotative and this is your denotative. But remember, we're not using any shape at all. The shapes that you're going to be using are going to be done with type like you have here. So I would use this circular type treatment for this area right here. Just make sure you're not using any visual aids such as shapes or guides or lines or illustrations of any sort. All right. I like how you started to bring in another title or a font treatment here. I'm not sure if it's working well with this bold font, in all honesty. I don't know. Is this the same font even? I'm not sure. But it feels very different. I'm wondering if there's something about how bold it is, or no, it's a different font, but yeah, these two don't seem to be working well. And even here, these two seem somehow there's something very different about them, right? But let's try to see if there's a way to make sure things are a little bit more considered. Like, I like how you've done the title here, or I'm sorry, the body copy. So put some butter in the pan to avoid sticking, and then in a shallow dish, dip bread slices in, and then prepared mixture, both sides. All right. So I like how you've done this font treatment here. I'm wondering if we can maybe bring this in to areas right here, maybe just for some consistency. And the text here is getting cut off, so it'd be nice to just read the whole sentence a little bit more clearly. And maybe there's ways to bring in some of that circular motion here, kind of like what you have with this text here. And don't be afraid to add more of those effects here if you think it works better for your recipe, all right? And then this area here seems very different than the rest of your layout. Like, I think these two work very nicely, how you treated the weight of this font with the boldness of this area here. It's just this feels like a mistake here. I feel like, you know, we need to kind of either use this text or this font over here, bring it in. It just feels very like out of place. Okay, so that's what I would do for yours. But I think you're going in the right direction, and you know, feel free to bring back the color. I think the color that you had in your previous or this week's layout was nice. It's just that I think we missed the mark on not using any visual aids. So I think this is why I referred back to this particular version for you. Okay, I hope that helps. Let's move on to Andreas. So avocado egg rolls. Okay, so Andreas. Those look very similar. I think the only difference between the two is that we just put a wave-like motion for the body copy, and I'd like to see something a little bit more intentional with what makes avocado egg rolls so special. So I think we have another student here who actually did do a roll recipe, so I'd like to kind of refer back to her work and see if there's something we can bring in. So this is another example of a roll. So see how there's some elements here that you can kind of get inspired by, but using direction a little bit more intentionally for the layout. I'm wondering if there's something we can bring into that title treatment of yours as well as the body copy, at least for the connotative. But maybe there is this very strong curve that you've created for your title treatment that can be followed by the ingredients, other areas of your recipe, how to make them. So I would use this as your guide, honestly, as how you would make this roll-like effect. I will say that putting a decorative text on a curved type path does get a little too much. I would prefer it just the way it is here with the denotative, just simple, straightforward. And then I will say that this area right here, sweet and savory, this font doesn't really work well with this font. It seems like, I want to say maybe bring in this font right here and just treat it this way, and then see if there's a way this can meld itself well in between those two paragraphs, or maybe it's where egg rolls is. And then I would say for your denotative, see if there's a little bit more room for color or alignment. So alignment here, I'm trying to see how we can structure this. So I'm not sure why we're aligning things to the center and then to the left, but see if there's a way maybe to organize this a little bit better. Maybe avocado and the rest of the ingredients list is right here, and maybe how to make them. Maybe egg rolls is on the second indented alignment right here. Ingredients list maybe here, how to make them right here. So maybe just be a little bit more intentional with how you're aligning things in your overall layout. Okay, and don't be afraid to use color. You can definitely work in black and white, but always explore with color as well. Next we have Paidge. So Paidge, it looks like you have a few versions here. So the reason why I chose to see both is because I think there are some things that I see that are very strong in certain areas more than others. So I like where you're going with the color treatment here with the tiramisu, Italian tiramisu. That works nice with this version right here for your denotative. However, I will say that I do like this version more for your denotative, and the reason why is because with tiramisu, there's this layering going on, and I see this happening nicely with this layout here, and it has like this very nice classical feel with the font you've chosen. So I would definitely go back to this version here and see if you want to bring in some color like you have with this version. But I think overall how you've divided up your information here works a lot more nicely than how you've done it over here. Okay, and you can bring in some elements here that you have. I just think this one works better and just feels tighter and cleaner. Okay, yeah, see, I personally prefer this version next to this version. If we bring back that peach color, I think that would work out nicely. Okay. So let's just maybe switch this version with this, switch these two, all right, and just add some of that color in, all right. And then for your connotative, let's see how we can make this a little bit more stronger, all right. Let's not go too overboard with the effect here. I think it works nice here, but just minimize it a little bit more. I think tiramisu works good, but then Italian just kind of, it's a little bit too wave-like. It gets hard to read, right? If you want to do things like this, I would say align them a little bit better. So make sure steps aligns with the steps right here, okay? And then ingredients, align this to the bottom edge right here where it says 4 egg yolks. And yeah, see if like there's areas that can get a little bit smaller. So make sure areas like this are not too close to one another. And then see where you want to bring in your pull quote. I'm not sure where your pull quote is. I think that's the only thing that's missing. Maybe there's an area for your pull quote here or right here somehow. And just make sure that you're not getting too close to the edge like you are in these two areas right here. So just be careful with that. But I think in terms of color-wise, I think this works out very nice. Those dark tones with like those lighter edges, lighter hues. So that turned out nice. So, you know, just a suggestion, I would say go with this version for your denotative because I think it works a little bit better in terms of how your information is laid out. All right, and you can bring in certain elements like how you've written out ingredients, maybe do the same thing for your steps or instructions, and if you want to divide up your instructions, step 1, step 2, step 3, that would be a little bit better. All right, so see how you want to do that, and then you know, just make those tweaks. All right.